Hi guys, let me take a few minutes and talk about these homework solutions. For question number 7, you're supposed to explain why we randomly assigned subjects to treatments in the experiment in exercise 3. So if you have not read exercise 3 yet, you need to take a minute, pause the video, read this experiment, and then we'll see if you understand the reason for the random assignment. Notice what we're doing here. We're trying to measure the productivity of people's proofreading given 3 different treatments. So random assignment is important because naturally maybe some of the subjects will be faster proofreaders. Maybe some of the subjects will be slower proofreaders. Random assignment means that the faster proofreaders are randomly distributed to the 3 treatments, as well as the slower proofreaders. Again, randomly, they'll be evenly distributed between these 3 treatments. That random assignment makes treatment groups ultimately that are comparable. That's what's so important about random assignment. Same thing with question number 10. If you haven't read question number 10 yet, you should pause the video, read the question, and then take a look. One variable that researchers kept the same in this experiment. Notice right here, we had 408 adults with persistent asthma. So we're looking just at adults. We're not looking at adults and children. So we are looking at specifically individuals that have persistent asthma. How does keeping this variable the same prevent confounding? Or how does it prevent confusing our comparison at the end of the experiment? So understand, by using only adults, by using specifically adults with persistent asthma, we have comparable groups. And that makes the comparison that we make at the end of the experiment more valid. We can trust it. So, again, same thing. If you haven't read question number 16, if you haven't read question number 16 yet, pause the video and take a look. Read it first. So, in this question, what's the flaw? What flaw in this study makes it impossible to determine if the new method is more dangerous? So understand, the records describe many cases where doctors had chosen the method of treatment. Doctors are choosing the treatment. The treatment is not being randomly assigned to the subjects. Doctors are choosing the treatment. So understand, patients treated with the new method were significantly more likely to die. Well, maybe that's because the doctors were trying the new method on the patients that were sicker. So the problem here is we do not have random assignment to the treatments. The doctors are choosing. That choice may be biasing the result. So, designing experiments. The 2 questions that I wanted you to be able to draw a picture of regarding the experiment were on page 241. Those were questions 1 and 4. So here's the diagram for question number 1. Here's one way at least to draw it. We'll zoom in on it. So we start with 300 volunteers. It's really important then that we have random assignment into the 2 groups. We have a group of 150 volunteers here. We have a group of 150 volunteers here. Ideally, we're going to have the same number of volunteers in both groups. So we have one group that has ads. We have one group that does not have ads. So we have to specifically describe why those groups are different. And then ultimately at the end, you should describe your comparison. We are comparing the frequency and the length of phone calls between the group with the ads and the group that doesn't have ads. Be specific then about the random assignment, how many subjects are going into each group, describe the difference between those groups, ads and no ads, and then be specific about the comparison you're making. Use the word compare, and what are we comparing? We're comparing the frequency and the length of the phone calls. So, same thing. The other question I wanted you to look at was question number 4. So, starting with schools, we are randomly assigning to 4 different groups, and you should describe those groups. One has physical activity intervention. One is nutrition intervention. One is both interventions. And then we also have a control group where there is no intervention. So we have multiple groups here, describe them specifically, and then at the end, describe the comparison we are going to make. We are going to compare physical activity and lunch consumption of fat. We're going to make that comparison between these groups.